Hi, I'm Pete Myers. I am the executive director of Mission Albuquerque. This video right here is going to be the year in review, except for I'm going to call it years in review because it's been about 2.5 years, maybe 3.5. It's been about 3.5 years since I've really sent out an update email letting you know what's going on at Mission Albuquerque. People have texted me, called me, asked me personally, and I've tried to share some of the things that were going on over these years, but I haven't been able to share with you sort of in one space for you to be able to follow up and respond to it. So this is not going to be a 5-minute video. In the future, I'm going to try to keep even our year in review videos under 5 to 10 minutes, but this one's not going to be for sure because I'm going to cover 3.5 years. And I'm going to go back to about October of 2022. October of 2022 was about the last time I sent out an updating email, and I sent out an update email, you might remember, saying, hey, we're doing well, we're excited about the future, and we're covering our expenses, but we're ready to scale up. And then really a matter of days later, I sent out an email saying, hey, I spoke too soon. I didn't understand that we were running out of some of our gap funding that was kind of supposed to be covering us until the daycare got back up to full capacity after COVID. And so we ran out of our COVID gap funding and ended up in a place of crisis. And I said, hey, we need $10,000 more per month just to stay open. So obviously we're still here. I know I got emails saying, are you still here? Are you still out there? But I'll just say that one of the things that happened, so our staff as of today is fully paid, all except for me. And so one of the things that happened right after that crisis was that I went out and got a full-time job in a different sector. And so I've been managing Mission Albuquerque, as well as pastoring Sandia Church of the Nazarene, as well as working to support my family financially outside of Mission Albuquerque. And in the meantime, we were able to get things back to where they should be. So I'm going to talk a little bit about how we got there, and why I think that now is the time to sort of jump back into a commitment to start updating you regularly again. We, at that point where we entered financial crisis, we scaled back staffing. And one of the things that meant was that some of our staff did not accept pay. Some of our director level staff did not accept pay for some time. We had to cut back on some of our entry level staff. We had our Kingdom Builders director, my wife, was working in a classroom as a lead teacher right up till a couple months ago. So our director level staff were filling in everywhere they could, and we made it through. Pre-COVID, our daycare enrollment was about 67, I think it was 67 or 68. Post-COVID, I think we got down to about 28 in April of 2020, which was not really post-COVID, but post major shutdown, or during the major shutdown, we were at 30. In terms of actual enrollment, students coming. In between then and now, we've had our ups and downs. We got up to about 48, and then we had some families leave that were pretty large families, and we were back down to 39. So as of about September of 2023, we were at 39. Now, April of 2024, which is almost 2 years ago now, we were up to 50, and we've kind of floated around mostly in the 40s since then. But as of my last report that I received from our daycare staff, we were at 57 students in our daycare, which means we are still not up to full capacity. Full capacity would be 70 students at any one time. And we were very close to that pre COVID with our enrollment. But we are getting much closer now. Some other things have happened in the meantime, including probably one of the most significant things is that recently our governor in New Mexico has announced an initiative called Universal Childcare. Now, I don't want to be political in this report. I'm just going to talk about how this affects Mission Albuquerque and Kingdom Builders. I will say that regardless of what side of the party lines you fall on, that I believe that daycare assistance is one of the best forms of public assistance that exists. Because if we are going to provide public assistance for families, then daycare assistance is one that requires families to be working or in school in order to get it. So they can't just sit at home and send their kids to daycare. In order to get public daycare assistance, at least in New Mexico, still under universal child care, it's still the same. You have to be either going to school or working a job. And if there are two parents, then both parents have to be either going to school or working a job, showing that they cannot take care of their own children. And one of the reasons why I believe it is the most, one of the best forms of public assistance that exists is because the cost of childcare. So the going rate for childcare right now, the state has evaluated that, and usually the state, I'll just say, pays under the going rate for the nice daycares in the nice parts of town. But they pay approximately $2,800 a month for a baby to be in daycare. That's what the state pays us, more or less. So if you multiply that out, that means that if you have a baby and you want to put them in the daycare, that you would need to make $30,000 a year, 2,800 times 12, in order to put your kid in daycare and not make anything for yourself. So you'd be working just to pay daycare. So I would say that in the past, and perhaps still in some of the communities where you live near your family, the family members take care. You know, you've got grandma and grandpa are retired, and they take care of your kids while you're at work. It used to be that one parent would stay home and take care of the kids, and the other parent was the one that provided for the family financially with their job. I would say that that is not a legitimate option for most families in Albuquerque, New Mexico right now. I can't speak for the whole country, but there are many people that don't have family members living close by to watch their kids. They need two incomes in order to survive, and therefore they need childcare in order to work. If they have one child, they need to make over $30,000 in order to make anything. Otherwise, they're essentially making zero. They could just stay home and watch their own kid. If you have two children and say one of them's a little older, for an older child, they pay less. So say you have a school-age child and a baby, maybe a kindergarten child and a baby, then you're looking at $1,000 per child for the school age child. So now you're talking about another $12,000. So you've got to make $42,000 a year in order to just pay for daycare. So I say all that to try to get the political thought process out of our minds when we're talking about universal child care. So what our state has done is they've used gas and oil money primarily, and not income taxes, because we have that here in New Mexico, and they've used that to pay. It used to be up to 400% of the poverty level. I think they would pay for childcare, but there was a sliding scale copay. Universal childcare has taken away the sliding scale copay. And it is said that childcare is available for every New Mexico resident, if you are working or going to school. And so that's what's going on here. In the process, our governor and her team recognized that they were going to be adding students to the daycare, pool, and so they wanted to make sure there was enough daycares to handle the students. So they have offered all sorts of incentives for daycares, including they have increase the pay to the numbers that I'm telling you that the state will pay. They used to pay significantly less. They pay us now that much, and they paid a certain amount, and then they added a certain amount if we give if our starting salary or starting pay for our entry level teachers is $4 more than what it was required to be before. So what that means for us is that we recognize the need to take care of our teachers as well as possible. We recognize that if we didn't take care of our teachers, they might go to another daycare that did. So we chose to pay the full amount to our teachers that the government was requesting in exchange for an additional amount of funding. So as of today, Kingdom Builders at 57 students is bringing in more than we have ever brought in per month. And this year will be the largest year of income for Kingdom Builders in its history. Even though we're not quite back up to our overall greatest enrollment ever. So that being said, we are also paying our teachers very well, which has enabled us to hire several more teachers to meet the needs of the increase in enrollment. It is also meeting the needs of pulling our director out of a classroom full time so that she can do a better job of actually directing the daycare and helping our newer teachers get to where they need to be. So that's what's been going on with Kingdom Builders. Kingdom Builders is still the most significant source of income that we have, although we have other programs that are bringing in additional income more than they used to. So that's really great. I want to go ahead and move on and talk about some other things that have gone on in the last few years. So coming out of COVID, in 2020. We had been doing work in Vista Grande pre-COVID, Vista Grande apartment complex, and doing what we called resident services. We did a lot of work there, but it was all volunteer. We were working voluntarily with the owners of the property as well as the management of the property to offer things in their building. Now, over COVID, they did a complete remodel of what was then Vista Grande, including moving current residents out and putting them up in hotels for 3 to 6 months at a time, and then moving them back in. And by the way, the facility is beautiful. It is much better. During that process, many of the families that we had been working with transitioned out. And also what happened was the family who had started the work there at Vista Grande moved out because with the new changes, they had been grandfathered in. They no longer met the low-income requirements for being there, and they had been grandfathered in for some time, and they were no longer grandfathered in under the new grant funding that had enabled the property to be completely redone. So that being said, we really had no presence in that facility anymore, or in any facility for resident services. But I got a call from Yes Housing, and they said, we'd love for you to continue doing what you have done in the past, and we now have funding to be able to give you a budget to do that. And so you would think that I would have said yes immediately, but I did step back and say, we don't have a person to do that. I contacted the person that had been living there and said, I know it's not as convenient, it's not as easy because you're not living there. It was never easy, but they lived clear across town, and it was going to be a 40-minute drive to continue doing that work. It was no longer volunteer, but also nobody was going to get rich off of it. And so I offered that first, and she said, I don't think that I can do that at this time. So I put out to our staff, do you guys want to do this? Who is interested? Who might be feeling led to be a part of this work. And Rebecca Landry, who was at the time employed with Kingdom Builders Daycare within Mission Albuquerque, said, I think that this is something I would like to do. So Vista Grande was renamed Copper Terrace, and we began work there. I believe it was March of 2021 that we began work in Copper Terrace with a budget from Yes Housing to do resident services. Rebecca did an outstanding job, was well liked, well appreciated, amazed people, was able to get children in the community engaged at a level. We actually had kids showing up for tutoring, which they said no resident services coordinator had ever been able to accomplish. Kids just didn't show up. They offered it, but nobody showed up. But Rebecca built relationships, and it was amazing. So that was before 2022. But what has happened since is that we have added apartment complexes. So in April and May of 2023, I believe it was, we added Imperial Apartments downtown and Nuevo Atrisco Apartments on West Unser and near Unser and Central. Since then, in fact, very recently, since then we added management of the garden at Imperial as well, a rooftop garden downtown that James helps manage, and then James got the contract for us to manage multiple gardens with Yes Housing, including overseeing the garden programs in the whole state of New Mexico. So Mission Albuquerque, and specifically James, one of our directors, manages the garden programs for the whole state of New Mexico for Yes Housing, including directly overseeing about 3 gardens now, I believe, at Imperial, at Copper Terrace, at Nuevo, and I think also at Solar Villa. So maybe it's 4 gardens that he's overseeing. So then within the last 3 months, we have added Solar Villa for resident services and Calle Cuarta, which is on 4th Street. Solar Villa is very close to our Kingdom Builders location, our central location. And Calle Cuarta is on 4th Street Northwest. So we're doing very well with resident services. We've had Christmas parties, we've had festivals that kind of like fall festivals or summer festivals that we've coordinated with work teams that have come through. And it's just outstanding. We now have 3 part-time service coordinators. We have obviously our services director, and we have garden program. We hired 2 teenage interns for the summer to help with the gardening program this past summer, and I anticipate us doing that more in the future. Our Mission Training Center has been developing. One of the things I'm very excited about recently is that we have a great hospitality team that has hosted a Father's Day dinner, a Veterans Day dinner, community gathering for our MTC community. We've done Angel Tree for multiple years, which is gifts for children of incarcerated individuals. Beyond Borders has helped us care for children in the community. We've done a good job of supporting the local elementary school. We've hosted teams from KU, from Pittsburgh Church of the Nazarene in Pittsburgh, California, Tulsa First Methodist, and I'm sure there are others that I'm missing, and we're anticipating some more coming really soon. We have had MTC students and staff doing ongoing 50-50 wash at the local laundromat, which has been a great way for us to connect with members of our community. We have had more classes than I can mention, than I can list. The most recent class that we have offered is from Reach Hurting Kids Institute, which is empowering people to reach hurting kids. And so we're many of our staff plus the students at our MTC are working to understand better what children with a history of trauma are going through and why they act the way that they do when we approach them, and what we can do to better approach them, which is obviously right in line with the kind of training that we would need. And I'm thankful for our MTC for participating in that. They have received grant funding on a small scale to be able to offer that course, as well as some other courses associated with gratitude and things like that. We restarted Spring Break Day Camp in March of 2024. So this year will be our third year doing Spring Break Day Camp again. And it started back small. And I think the first year it was largely our students at Kingdom Builders Daycare in the school age program. Maybe a few extra we did advertise, but we were working on getting our staff up. And I think that year we ended up having about 38 staff show up and about 38 kids. And so that was pretty exciting because we realized we can pursue growing this event again, because we have, and when I say staff for the event, I mean staff and volunteers who came to help out. And so I feel really grateful that that went well. This last year, we advertised it more widely. It happened to coincide with a local spring break camp that was being had just down the street from the facility, our MTC facility where we hold the camp. And so many of our students in the neighborhood of the MTC did not attend because they were at the local school. And so this year, we are meeting with the school to work together to make sure that we don't overlap. And they have agreed to encourage students to come to our event and to time their event so that it doesn't overlap, so that they could actually go to both. So we're pretty excited about that. We are also able to provide a bus. We are working with our apartments where there are kids. Some of our apartments, Solar Via is primarily seniors, so there are not many kids at Solar Via, but at some of the others, there are lots of kids. At Calle Cuarta, I'm told that the first gathering that we had to meet everybody, we had over 30 kids show up, and so we're really hopeful to try to get some of those kids to our Spring Break Day Camp this year, and that is very, very soon upcoming. I want to just kind of go over our resource center is thriving. We're working on raising up leaders. We continue to distribute food on Thursday nights. We have Grace Free Store, which I think is a new development since we last reported. And we have actual shoppers that will walk through with somebody in need and shop for the things that they most need. One of the things that we've noticed is that when we put out a table with clothes and blankets, with the scarcity mentality, people just grab armfuls, and some of it goes to waste because they can't even carry it all around. But if it's free, they're going to grab it. They might try to sell it. They might try to use it to help somebody else. That's a less cynical view. But in the end, there's a sense that people lose their dignity, and whereas maybe you or I struggle to accept something for free. I don't need a handout. I don't need that. Oh, you're going to pay for my lunch. Some people love when you pay for their lunch, but some of us are like, no, you don't need to pay for my lunch. I'll pay for your lunch, or I can pay for my own lunch. And we have that thought process. But I find that people in desperate need, specifically homeless individuals, lose the dignity to be able to say that, and instead go in ready to grab up everything. And that's a transition that sometimes charity has created amongst people who are in need. So we're working really hard to try to not continue to do that in our community and to create dignity. And so we're doing that with the Grace Free Store by on Thursdays, meeting people, talking to them, learning their names, sending them one-on-one with a shopper through the store, picking out what they actually need, giving them the chance to put it on if they need to, things like that, and giving them the dignity of talking to them, of touching them, hugging them, patting them on the back, shaking their hand. and really honestly treating them like a human being, where they are not treated like human beings many times. They're treated like animals. Those are some thoughts. But we have done that in our resource center. Our resource center is going very well. We're still distributing food, distributing clothing. We're doing it in better ways. We Probably the biggest thing that has happened in the last 3.5 years or so is that we have replaced almost all the roofs on all our facilities, which has been a big task. We received, we filed an insurance claim um, in February of 2024, or actually quite a bit before that, probably about 6 months before that. And in February of 2024, we received almost 307,000, which was intended by our insurance company to cover the roofs at Central and all of the roofs on the Valley property, MTC property. That is obviously not enough money to cover all of those roofs. In fact, that $307,000 number was essentially pretty close to what it cost to replace the central roof alone. As soon as I looked at the list of things they paid for, I immediately knew there were things wrong, there were things missing. They did not pay for any of our HVAC units. We have 6 on the roof at ABQ Central, where Kingdom Builders is. Um, and and those were all clearly damaged um, by hail. So we knew immediately that it was not, something was not right. The adjuster had honestly had called me about a half hour before he was going to show up, and expected me to just be there. I told him I wasn't there. I said, you didn't warn me. You didn't set an appointment. I said, which property are you going to meet me at? And he said, what do you mean, which property? So he was not even prepared. He was not aware that there were multiple properties on a single claim, that there were multiple roofs, there were multiple buildings. He was unprepared. He showed up. I was able to get our maintenance director, facilities director, to meet him, and he showed up. And he only stayed an hour or so. He didn't have any more time. He had to set a different appointment to continue working on that, and then another appointment, a third appointment for our second property. I say all that to say there was clearly a lack of follow through on the part of this individual who was hired by the insurance company to be our adjuster. And when our roofers began to try to talk to him about, we're going to need to adjust this claim, we're going to need to get this change and that change and this added, and he immediately started pushing back, and he said, no, this isn't right, we're not going to do that, we're not going to do that. So we hired a public adjuster. The long and the short of it is we hired a public adjuster who worked for us, who spent over a year going through and doing the job right. And he came out with a number that he thought we should get nearly $3 million for our roofs. He took that back to the insurance company, and they were very confused and very surprised, and did not understand why the numbers were so far off. One of the things was he didn't even measure properly to know that the central building is not rectangular. It actually angles out like this, and he didn't even know that. So it was a painful process, but the public adjuster then negotiated, and basically the insurance company hired a building engineering firm to work directly with our public adjuster and come to an agreement. And in the end, in September of 2025, which, yes, is only about 6 months ago at this point, we received another $797,000. So a total of about 1.1 million for our roofs. Now, it's still not the 2 or 3 million that our public adjuster thought that we needed, but roof work began at ABQ Central in June of 2025. And just actually before we got the final check, when it was pretty sure that that was on its way. As of today, we have finished all of the roof work at the Valley property, the MTC property as well, and and we have new roofs and new soffits and fascia on every building in the valley. And we have spent. We also got new HVAC units at Central out of that, and we have not fully finished repairing some of the inside stuff. We have repaired the sanctuary wall of the foyer that at ABQ Central that was had drippage on it and was really in bad repair. We have repaired the front entryway at ABQ Central. Which is now allowing us to put new carpet on. All of the wallboard is brand new. Everything is brand new there. We're working on some of the apartments on the MTC campus to finish getting those ready with the interior work. So we have in the range of about 70,000 left. And we have still some more work to do. All of that said, we did have to pay the public adjuster, and that came. Obviously, we're supposed to use all the insurance funds for the work, and so that had to come from somewhere. So that that came out of our pocket, and it cost us a significant amount for his 2 to 3 years worth of work that he's been working on this. So what we're working on right now is that he connected us with a lawyer and highly advised us to make a claim against the insurance company for bad faith, meaning, for those of you that don't know about insurance and things like that, which I didn't before all this process, but I'm becoming very educated. So bad faith is apparently when an insurance company that is supposed to be representing you does not act in your best interest and instead acts in their own best interest. And that is best proven by that they did not spend enough time, and this is, you can Google this, they did not spend enough time investigating the claim. The amount of money was that they gave out initially was significantly different from the final amount. Those are the top 2 reasons that a bad faith claim comes through, and we have those hands down. There is no doubt that they finally agreed with us that they should have given us 4 times what they initially gave us. And there's no doubt that they did not properly investigate the claim. And in my mind, there's no doubt that they acted in their best interest and not in our best interest, and refused to talk to us when we mentioned that it wasn't right. What they did wasn't right. They didn't want to talk to us about it. They wanted us to just accept. And I would say that probably most nonprofits, in particular most pastors, would have just accepted it and moved on originally and not fought for the extra money that we really needed, and certainly not gone back and fought. In my mind, the bad faith claim should at least pay for the adjuster that we had to hire in order to get them to pay us what they should have paid us. And our adjuster still does not believe that we've received what we actually should have received, because of the things that were denied in the negotiation process. So that means that we have replaced all the roofs that should have been replaced. We've replaced the fascia and the soffits, and the campus looks beautiful at MTC. Our ABQ Central roof no longer leaks. So things are going pretty well at Mission Albuquerque. And I know that with 3.5 years worth of stuff going on, I've probably overemphasized some things and underemphasized another. Maybe I've missed some things, but the overall truth is that things are going very well. We're financially stable. We're in a much better place than we were 3.5 years ago, and we're ready to move forward and attack the problems of our community and help our community grow.